Hi everybody, this is Alchemist 2, and I'm back again with another movie review. Recently, Dad and I decided to watch An Officer and a Gentleman featuring the very handsome, very sexy Richard Gere. Actually, a much younger Richard Gere, probably his very first film. This movie was this movie was released in 1983. And actually, the clothing looks a little, well, when he's in the Philippine Islands, it's more reminiscent of the 1970s with the attire and everything. And then you can see the the influence of styles from the 80s. So it's very intriguing. But the basic story is about um, a young man who really doesn't have much of a relationship with, well, actually his father doesn't have much of a relationship with him, and his father was always messing around with the local whores in the Philippine Islands, and he's just not a good example for his son whatsoever. And his son wants to make something out of himself. His father was in the Navy, and he wants to join the Marine Air Force, which he does. I think he is trying to prove himself, and his father just doesn't really understand what the whole point of that is. He just is completely clueless, and he goes off on his own and starts a new life for himself. He still is a person who looks out only for himself. He's very self-centered. Well, he had to be, and he feels like he doesn't really need any help from anybody, and he doesn't want anybody to love him. He's afraid that if that happens, he will be disappointed by the experience because his father never cared for him. And his mother committed suicide when he was very young, probably when he was 7, I think. Yeah, that's what he mentioned in the film, and that really caused him to grow up rather quickly. He never really understood why she did it, but of course he took it upon himself as if it was his fault. And later you could see that theme reemerging. And it really is a very intriguing film, one dealing with human emotion, the whole idea of being involved with the military lifestyle and how challenging it can be, how it can cause people to engage in activities that they normally wouldn't if they feel like they're desperate. But there's one character named Lynette whom I absolutely loathe. She's just, for lack of better term, she's a bitch. And when you watch the movie, you see why she is, and that she's a manipulative little idiot. She's a moron. And it's very overt and clear why. I won't give anything away as to why she is, but I just I loathe her character. She gives females a bad name. Her friend Paula is another Deb in the area where these pilots, well, these soon-to-be pilots, take their training and go through all of the obstacle courses and just the vigorous uh, conditioning that they have to undergo, and it's just crazy. I was watching it and I thought I wouldn't last a day and something like that. I mean, I can do about 10, 20 push-ups and then I'm done. I mean, I'm it's over for me. I probably wouldn't even be able to climb a wall with a rope. Well, I probably could because my upper body strength isn't that bad. My lower body strength is tremendous. I have legs more like a guy than I do a girl, so I think I'd be okay, but it would still be taxing, and you could see how enervated these cadets were at the end of the day. And it's very sad what occurs later on. You have this character named Sid. Sid falls in love with Lynette, and he just thinks the world of her, and he has a girl back home, but he wants to stay dedicated to Lynette because Lynette has given him the news that she's pregnant. She says she hasn't had her period, but actually this is just a ploy. Again, she's using her feminine wiles to lure him and trap him, just like the colonel, well, the sergeant, just like the sergeant warned the cadets that the Debs would do. And she's just a conniving bitch. I mean, there's no other way to say it. She's terrible, and I just wanted to slap her. It's people like that that just, you wonder what's wrong with them. And you learn later on that she wanted to marry a pilot, excuse me. And you think, how idiotic or asinine can you be? That's the most immature thing I've ever heard. Well, it does have a happy ending concerning Zachary Mayo, who is played by, of course, Richard Gere. And I just adore Richard Gere. He starts off as a very conceited character, one that has swagger. He thinks that he's smarter than the instructor, and oftentimes ticks the instructor off. But you can see that he really has a good heart, and he tries to help his friends, particularly Sid. And I'm not going to give away what happens to Sid, because what happens to Sid is, even though I knew it was going to happen, it still shocked me a little bit that he went through with it. And it's just so tragic. And you think, why would you do that, even though you had a blazing career to look forward to, and now it's over. But again, he feels responsible, and Paula tries to talk him out of it, and he decides that he wants to break off his long-standing relationship with her. But in the end, he comes to the realization that this is not the path that he was meant to take, that in fact he does love her. And there's a very happy ending, and I'm not going to say what it is, but the song "Love Lifts Us Up Where We Belong" is actually played at the credits, which I absolutely love. I thought, I know this song. It's one of my favorite songs. And I thought it was very interesting that a movie like this was made when I was about one. I probably wouldn't have remembered it. My parents would probably have gone to see it without me, because I was too young to appreciate it. I was still a baby, for gosh sakes. It's a really great film. It's poignant. It's very illustrative of, I think, what happens within the duration of training for pilots and what they have to go through. Of course, they take the same oath that Army cadets do, which is what my dad told me, because my dad is a veteran. My dad, he he trained for Korea, but he never had to go. He got lucky. By the time they needed him, the officer said, "Well, the war's over. Go back to your duty at home, soldier." It's like, thank you. He's an E4, so I have that military background, and my uncle Hugh was involved in Normandy and Okinawa, both theaters, and I have his journals, and I'm very proud of this fact. That I myself would never get involved in such a thing, because I just don't think I would be capable. If indeed I were, I would probably go into just tactical ops on the ground with droids, because I'm too much of a coward to actually go into the field. But other than that, I must say that the movie itself is really quite well done. There's quite a bit of cursing, but it's to be expected. It's just like watching The Sopranos or Boardwalk Empire or Game of Thrones. I mean, it's the rough and tumble way that those people spoke, and everyday common language that isn't um, shocking at all. It's just considering these people's background, and it makes sense. And for the for the things they had to endure, it certainly is understandable. And there's a lot of fornication involved. There was one scene where they show, I mean, full on sex, which surprised me. But it was back in the 80s. I guess it was, considered not so bad. But to me, it was sort of like what was that movie? I forget what it was, but there's a lot of sex. It's a movie from Germany, um, but it's rather graphic. This is not so bad. I mean, it's done so in a more romantic way, but to watchers today, it might be considered pornographic. I fast forwarded through it. I didn't want to be tempted by it. But other than that, I can say I really enjoyed this movie, and that it was exceptionally well done. And if you're interested in the military lifestyle, and I think this is accurate. I don't know if any of you out there are really cadets or becoming ensigns or whichever. Let me know, because I'm not very familiar with the process. But I give it 2 thumbs up, 5 stars, and I just adored Richard Gere. And it had good messages in it. It has good messages in it. It's about dedication and loyalty, friendship, um, perseverance. That was a big one, especially for Zack Mayo, or as the sergeant calls him, mayonnaise. I felt sorry for him when he called him. I thought, oh, you jerk! Why are you doing that? Why must you be such a bastard? But he did that because he wanted to whip them into shape and make them work. He wanted to have them realize that what they were doing was something that was worthwhile, and they had to realize that they couldn't just rely on themselves, that they had to work as a team. That's also important as well, and it goes into detail. You don't really get to, yeah, you do actually see why. And Zachary, he becomes more other-oriented and more of a self-sacrificer and altruistic, and he transforms, basically. I think that's the whole idea of the title, and it's just magnificent, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it to all of you out there who are interested in learning about such a lifestyle, and how well uh, how much we owe to whoever's in this kind of training program, and I salute them, definitely.